Hello everyone, I'm Brazen Eagle and thank you for joining me here. So today, we have an article, actually two articles, detailing historic Canadian population growth within the past year or so, and what that means for Canada, as well as perhaps to a lesser extent the United States and Europe. So, mass migration drives historic Canadian population growth. Over the past year, Canada has seen record growth in population, with 82.2% of the growth being attributed to mass migration, according to numbers published this week by Statistics Canada. Between 2018 and 2019, Canada received over 313,000 immigrants, one of the highest levels of immigration in Canadian history, according to Statistics Canada. The number of migrants without permanent residency also rose to over 171,000. French-language broadcaster Radio-Canada reports Canada's population in total grew by 1.4% between 2018 and 2019, marking the highest population growth of any country in the G7 and the highest level in Canada since 1990. Canada added around 1 person per minute to the population over the course of the year. All 10 Canadian provinces saw growth, with Ontario, Canada's most populous province, seeing the largest gain in population, increasing by 1.7%, while Newfoundland and Labrador saw the least at 0.8%. British Columbia and Saskatchewan, two of Canada's most westerly provinces, saw their largest population growth since July of 1971. French-speaking Quebec also saw its largest population gains for the last 30 years. Quebec has also been the site of the majority of illegal border crossings from the U.S. over the past few years, as many Haitian migrants abandoned the U.S. to avoid being deported to their home country. The flood of illegal aliens surged in August of 2017 to the point that Canada was forced to send soldiers to work alongside Royal Canadian Mounted Police officers and the Canada Border Services Agency to manage the national frontier. Canada is quite a large country. Canada's surge in population growth mirrors that of other Western nations, such as Sweden, which has also seen growth fueled by mass migration. In 2017, it was revealed that Sweden saw a 1% increase in population the previous year, making it the country with the second highest population growth in the EU. Germany, which has a very extremely low birth rate, has also experienced dramatic population growth due to mass migration. A report from August claimed that as many as a quarter of the German population now come from migration backgrounds. And I covered that video actually quite a while ago. And that's pretty much it for the story. Interesting. Very interesting. You know, Canada usually isn't in the news, at least here in the States. Maybe except for when there's a change in leadership, because I hear there's an election going on soon, or maybe a major crisis that happens, but the fact that Canada is experiencing large immigration numbers is really not surprising. Now, like what this article says, it's very similar to other Western countries like Sweden and Germany and, maybe even France as well. It's interesting to note, though, that Quebec has been a major site of illegal border crossings from the United States. It sounds like both countries need greater border control. Some would say that good fences make good neighbors, but now relatively open immigration allows for countries to bring in new people like this, But, of course, this will have present and future consequences. From this tweet, Canada 41 election constituencies, now ethnic minority majority, is very interesting, which actually I've opened up already in another tab from September 19th of 2019. What does this mean? What is a minority majority, though? Well, that means, it's a term used in the US or even Canada to refer to a jurisdiction in which one or more racially and or ethnic minorities, relative to the whole country's population, make up a majority of the local population, or, also known as minorities as a collective are the majority in an area instead of white people in this case. Now, minority majorities are happening all across Western civilization, not just the US, not just Canada, but in Sweden, France, Germany, all those types of places, even the UK. I think Birmingham is one notable example. Anyways, it's even happening in Japan. But, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we must view this from a certain perspective. Now, because of my relatively recent understanding of current events and how a narrative or ideology is being pushed, especially from universities and very left-wing strongholds, we'll say, some people are pushing extremely hard to equalize outcomes, not opportunities. No, we no longer believe in equal opportunities, but we believe supposedly in now equal outcomes, no matter what the price. Basically, leftists, socialists, communists, they're pushing for extreme multiculturalism instead of assimilation. Of course, assimilation is where you force new people in your country to become more and more culturally like you until there's almost no difference, maybe except for a racial difference. Now, if new immigrants fully assimilated into the host country, maybe, for example, in Canada, then, there would be less of a concern. But I would argue that immigrants aren't so different around the world too much. So I would say, especially as Canada is a little bit more left-wing, I would say, in general than the United States, especially in some areas, immigrants aren't really assimilating anymore. The idea of assimilation has been, we could say, knocked off its pedestal, which it should have never been knocked off in the first place. But, just because immigrants may learn English or German or French or whatever country or whatever language their host country speaks, that doesn't mean that the new immigrants are culturally the same. There's more to becoming a citizen and a member of a culture than merely learning a language. Immigrants, of course, inherently aren't bad. But in my view, they are merely a symptom of the push to destroy any host's country's culture in the 21st century, through the leftist words of, supposed progress, equality, equity, and marginalization. They are demanding that you, a culturally relevant person of your host country, that you give up your own culture out of supposed respect for immigrants, and you bow down to the new immigrants that do not deserve to be here. It's all for the progress of equality of outcomes. But like I said, it's one thing if immigrants fully assimilate into the host country. But if they don't give up their former culture, then you know what? You're gonna have a bad time. Just look at the former country of Austria-Hungary. Now, you could say that there weren't that many immigrants to Austria-Hungary, but within Austria-Hungary, there were at least 10 major different culture groups within that country that generally all hated each other. Just look at the official languages. You got German, you got Hungarian, Croatian, Italian, and then you have also Czech, Slovak, Yiddish, Slovene, Serbian, Bosnian, Polish, Romanian, Russian, Ukrainian, Carpathian, Romani. Generally, cultures don't like each other that much, and will end up killing each other. Just ask Archduke Franz Ferdinand. It didn't work out so well for him, now did it? But multiculturalism, I'm sorry, doesn't really work. But, I will say this. Assimilation might not be great, but if you look at all the other alternatives out there, in comparison to assimilation for the future of your country, assimilation is the best route to take. But, regardless, I do hear that our dear Canadians are having an election at the time of this video relatively soon. And I will be interested, or I will keep an eye on what happens in America's hat, also known as Canada. Well, anyways, with that in mind, thank you very much for watching. I'm Brazen Eagle, and I hope you have a great day.